What's the most annoying that's bad for you, myth that drives you crazy because people still believe it? My Asian parents have a grudge against cold foods and drinks. I live in Taiwan. No matter what problem I go to the Chinese medicine doctor with, everything is always caused by me drinking cold water. Last time it was acne. As a teenager, I went with my father to Mexico, where he hadn't been in over 20 years after having immigrated to the US. A group of wait staff at a restaurant saw him ask for a cup of ice, in which he poured his drink and immediately told him, "You can't have that much ice. You'll get sick." And I'll never forget the mocking laughter from my dad and the confusion of the wait staff. If you swallow gum, it will stay in your stomach for 7 years. When I was pregnant, I was grocery shopping, and I reached up to get something. Some lady said, "If you reach up, the umbilical cord will wrap around the baby's neck." What? That frozen vegetables aren't good for you. Just because they're easy and cheap doesn't make them unhealthy. I've even heard an argument that frozen fruits and vegetables might even be better, because they are snap frozen shortly after being picked/dug up, etc., whereas fresh fruits and veg are losing quality during the time that they are packed, transported, stocked, etc. Because it's natural that it is safe/healthy. Lady, please don't accidentally eat the wrong type of wild mushrooms. Drinking an ancient herbal supplement can actually harm the liver/kidneys, etc. Pulling a gray hair will cause 2 more to sprout up. Cracking your knuckles. I remember my grandma told me that, and I had just read about a study saying it was false, and everyone yelled at me to not backtalk her and that she used to be a nurse. I still crack my knuckles constantly, lol. I saw someone on r/cats whose landlord wanted her to get rid of her cat because it's black. I can't believe people still think like this to this extent. Unreal. Fat. Any fat was bad for a long time. Now, as an example, avocados are good fat. Which I agree with. Some South Koreans still believe that sleeping in a closed room with an electric fan on could kill you. There's absolutely no science behind it, but they take it very seriously. Sleeping with a fan on all night. I've done it every single night for 30+ years. You will not die from leaving your fan blowing on you overnight. It is totally insane that people think it's dangerous to do this. Almost all advice regarding pregnancy has changed in the last generation because of new research. This phenomenon was a daily annoying occurrence when I was pregnant, and my female co-workers in 40 to 60ish age range would badger me constantly about how I was being pregnant wrong. Like, one quick example was their horror when I drank coffee. Gluten. Unless you are gluten intolerant or celiac, gluten-free is not the inherently healthy choice. Swimming X minutes after eating will cause you to cramp up. As someone who grew up around competitive swimming and swim schools, it's generally to keep young children, usually under 6, from throwing up in the pool. The younger a child, the more likely they are to vomit if they ingest pool water directly after eating. I used to tell parents to feed their babies and toddlers no less than 1 hour before their lessons. 2 hours if it's a big meal. For competitive swimmers, eating a meal before practice can cause cramping, but a small snack is fine and generally encouraged as long as the workout isn't too intense. Going outside with wet hair. I remember my dad would always tell us that, and I heard my cousin tell her kid that just recently. I do not dry my hair, and haven't done in years, except if I need to style it for something. My mom still keeps asking, "Do you not get sick?" Any Brits here remember when it seemed like the news was constantly telling us that just about every foodstuff under the sun caused cancer? Other than that, all the others I had in mind have been said already. Not food, but I still get told that keeping my phone in my front pocket will make me infertile. GMOs. Genetically modified foods are not mutant demons. These are primarily seeds that have been modified to be able to grow in harsher conditions. For instance, the issues with diseased papaya. Genetically modified papayas were engineered to be resistant to the disease that was killing them. This modification allowed farmers to continue to grow their food, an income source. GMOs are not harmful. You are not going to be fed food that is GMO for fun. A lot of money goes into research to produce GMO things. No one is pouring money into modifying something that doesn't have a clear need for modification. Everything that we grow large scale has been modified by humans at some point in history. There weren't beakers and lab coats involved, but if a farmer in the Neolithic era noticed one strain of wheat was hardier than the other but the lesser one tasted better, then heck yeah, he's cross-pollinating or whatever. all the way down through history until now. GMO fears are just fears about scary, spooky science that is hard to understand. That's all. It's forgivable, but it's silly. Same with vaccines, same with pharma fears. Everything is a chemical. Oh, it's so bad for you because it has so many chemicals. Wearing a mask means you breathe in your own viruses and get sick from them. WTF does that even mean? If it's already in me, how is re-inhaling them going to get me sick? Sometimes I've had people claim I'd suffocate wearing one. Vaccinations. Never heard of polio? Stop making shit up. Yeah, I wonder why you haven't heard of it, dumbass. Makes me want to say hello to their face with my hand. That opening an umbrella indoors is bad luck. No, it's not. Grow the fuck up. I always open umbrellas indoors. That's the most efficient way for them to dry. Otherwise, they get mildew. It was probably started by Big Umbrella to make umbrellas go mildew, so that people have to constantly buy new umbrellas. Playing video games. Study after study has concluded that playing violent video games does not, in fact, make people more violent. That using unhealthy ingredients to make healthy foods taste good somehow cancels out the health benefits. That's just not how it works. At all. If you cook Brussels sprouts with bacon, the vitamins from the sprouts don't just magically disappear. It's one thing if it's just an adult making dumb decisions about their own diet, but what really pisses me off is when parents use that logic when feeding their kids. If your children's only experience of healthy food growing up is fucking unseasoned steamed veggies, then as soon as they move out, they're not touching another vegetable until their 40s, and once they do, it's only gonna be occasionally, begrudgingly, as a form of medicine. If, on the other hand, you make the healthy food taste good by adding things like butter or bacon or cheese, then they'll grow up liking healthy food and they'll keep eating it after they move out. The little bit of fat and cholesterol are worth it in the long run. Nuclear power is unsafe and dirty. It can be, it has been, but doesn't have to be. New molten sodium-cooled reactors are a giant step forward. There are lots of applications for less active, short half-life, spent fuel, more methods for recycling spent fuel into other useful and less dangerous and persistent isotopes, and granular fuel pellets individually encased in ceramics. The no-nuke activists shoulder some of the responsibility for the energy crisis by slowing advancement of the science since the 1970s. It's time to move on with the technology. It's not 1976 anymore. Bring forth the bashing. I can't stand that never eat/drink X garbage because eating something unhealthy occasionally won't kill you, and a lot of this misinformation is from mommy bloggers, like the reoccurring don't give your kids apple juice because contains arsenic, which is true, in parts per million, and means you would die from hydrotoxicity before being remotely poisoned. Eating after 8 p.m. makes you gain weight. That shaving makes your hair grow back thicker and faster. It's just a plain ass lie. It's just a lie, a myth. The amount of women and men who argue this is just nuts to me when a simple search with the computer in your hand could tell you that it's a fucking myth. I was told to shave my baby's head. A lot of my other Hispanic friends shaved their babies' heads, one because it's cultural, but mostly because they actually thought their baby's hair was going to grow back thicker. We have thick hair simply because we are Hispanic. The hair appears to be thicker because the first baby hairs that grow in are thin, that's it. Any baby is going to have thicker hair at 7 months to a year than they did at newborn to a month old. Eating fruit is bad for you because it's high in sugar. There's a difference between the added sugars in processed foods versus the naturally occurring sugars in things like fruit or dairy. Foods with natural sugars have additional nutrients and components that slow digestion of the sugars and prevents the blood sugar spikes that lead to weight gain and diabetes. Even added sugars can be part of a healthy diet as long as they're consumed in moderation. When it comes to nutrition/fitness, so many people online preach things in black and white when it's much more complex than that.